Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Pledges webinar today. We're just going to give it a few minutes to give people a chance to join, and then we will get underway. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webinar. I'm just going to give it one more minute just to give people a chance to join, and then we will get underway. Okay, I think we can get started. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today for this webinar about securing your pledges. So I'm Sahil, the Key Partnerships Manager, and on the call we have Beth, who is our Marketing Comms Manager. And also joining us today are three charities that took part in the Christmas Challenge last year and won awards. So we have Sophie from Children on the Edge, Maureen from Hearts Young Homeless, and Hannah from the Hygiene Bank. So really want to thank them for joining us today, and they're going to give us a presentation each on how they secured their pledges last year. So hopefully give you some good ideas and tips of what you can do this year. So let me just go on to the next slide. So before we begin, just some quick housekeeping. So there is a chat function on the right-hand side of your Zoom panel. So please set your chat reply to everyone in the little drop-down menu, just so everyone can see what you're writing. So feel free to introduce yourselves here and network with other attendees. You can use the chat box to also share any ideas and thoughts you have. If you have any tech issues, please post them there too. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. So if you do want to ask us or any of the panelists any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. So that's at the bottom of your Zoom panel, and that's where we will pick up the questions. Please try and avoid putting them in the chat box, because sometimes they can get lost in all the messages. So please put them in the Q&A box. There is captions enabled on this webinar, so if you click on more, there is an option to enable the transcription if you need that service. And a reminder, we are recording the webinar, so we will be posting it on our YouTube channel in case you want to watch it or you want to share it with colleagues afterwards. And if you have any additional questions after the webinar ends, as ever, just reach out to us at hello@biggive.org, and we'll be really happy to get back to you. So over the course of the session, this presentation is just going to cover pledge processes, so a reminder of what pledges are and the process of securing them. Some data from Christmas Challenge 2022, how you can secure the pledges, and then we'll have the case studies from our charity panelists. And then, as mentioned, we will open it up to the Q&A. So I will now hand over to Beth, who will just recap about what pledges are.
Great, thank you, Sahil, and welcome everyone. Next slide, please. So in terms of pledges, it's important to remember there are a few key terms before we get started. So what actually is a pledge? A pledge is anyone in your network. This could be a trustee, could be a volunteer, but anyone who wants to commit match funding to support your campaign. And these pledges count as promises of funding, which are then unlocked by your charity during that campaign week through those online donations that you raise. So all of your pledges are sourced and managed by you. And it's important not to confuse these with champion funds. These are funds that are sourced and managed by the Big Give, and both pledges and champion funds contribute to your match funding pot for the Christmas Challenge. So in terms of the processes, if you move to the next slide, please. Hopefully all of you should have already submitted your initial application or are in the process of finally submitting it. But in that initial application stage 1, you would have set your pledge targets already, and then you would have moved straight onto this stage 2 pledge collection stage. And the deadline to secure your pledges is the 1st of September. And when you're securing your pledges, it's really important to remember that there's no minimum or maximum amount of pledges that you can have. You can have 1, you can have 20, and so on, as long as that can get you to your target. But an individual pledge must be a minimum of £100. So you may have 10 pledges, all pledging £100 each to get you to that £1,000 minimum pledge target. So it's important to remember that you're only eligible for champion funding once you've secured that £1,000 in pledges. And as mentioned, these pledge forms have to be submitted by that September 1st deadline. And these pledges can't be funds already secured by your charity. So they can't be paid to you, but maybe you have a funder you're already talking to that's already kind of in the pipeline. Maybe you can have a conversation with them about paying you after the campaign, so that can be used as a pledge. But of course, if you don't reach that initial pledge target set in your application, that's absolutely fine. There's no punishment for that. So for example, if you put £5,000 as your pledge target initially, but you only raised £3,000, that's fine. Your pledge targets will just update automatically in that next stage. But again, another example is if you've maybe put £1,000 as your pledge target, but actually you've contacted a new funder and you've got some more funding coming in, you can contact us before the 1st of September deadline to raise your target if you want to, so you can secure more pledges before that deadline. For the next stage, once that application and the pledge collection stage is passed, all of your applications are passed onto Big Give, where we do our vetting and notification. So if you're a charity that has unfortunately not managed to reach that £1,000 pledge target, that is okay. We will offer you a private match fund offer, which is essentially an offer to take part in the Christmas Challenge using your pledges as a sole match funding for this campaign. So in this instance, you wouldn't receive any champion funding, but you could still choose to take part in the Christmas Challenge anyway, using those pledges as your match funding. Also, during this stage, at October 11th, all charities would receive their champion offers. After this stage, if you decide, actually, I've got a partial champion amount, I want to increase my target, or maybe you've got the full amount but still want to increase your target anyway, we do offer pledge top-ups, so which essentially allows charities to increase the amount of pledges that they add to their campaign. We will send a lot more information closer to the time about how pledge top-up works if you are interested in this. But it's just important to note that this won't change the amount of champion funding that you're offered. So you can increase your match funding amount, but it won't change the amount of champion funding at this stage. And the pledge top-up deadline will be somewhere around mid-November, but again, we'll send you all of the information about that process closer to the time. So you don't need to worry about that too much about now. You just need to know that it is an option. For the next stage, as many of you may already know, we move on to the marketing prep and campaign stage. So this is where we start preparing for the campaign and then of course have that campaign week. And here I've just put a reminder about how the pledge pot and your whole target is broken down. So as you can see, that match funding pot is split up between the pledges and the champion funds. So in this example, a charity secured £5,000 in pledges and £5,000 in champion funds, and they'd be seeking to raise £10,000 in online donations during that campaign week. And every online donation that they secure then starts to unlock that match funding pot. So in this example, they've raised a total of £20,000, but of course, it's important to remember that it's not an all or nothing situation. Say you raise £7,000 in online donations, you'd secure £5,000 in your pledges and £2,000 in your champion funds. So again, pledges are used first before the champion funds, but again, it's not an all or nothing situation. The final stage is this post-campaign stage, and this is where your pledges are starting to be paid to you. So pledges are paid directly to your charity, not the Big Give. And pledges can be paid to you by any method that's convenient to you and them. So they could pay you by cash, check, CAF, etc., whatever method works for you, as long as the pledges are paid to you between the 5th of December, when that Christmas Challenge campaign week has ended, up until the 12th of January. So that's when you have about a month for your pledges to get in to you. And a Big Give just require you to upload a proof of pledge to the charity portal so we can do our due diligence checks. So we just want to make sure that you've received the pledges at the right time from the right people and so on. So again, more information will be sent out about what we look for and what we need for you in regards to those pledge proofs, but it's important just to note that that's what we need from you eventually. And from that point, once you've received your pledge proofs, champion funds can then be paid out to you. So you won't be able to receive your champion fund payout until we've approved all of your pledge proofs. And of course, I understand that there's likely sometimes an issue or two. I know some charities have contacted in the past about maybe a pledger unfortunately passing away, or a pledger not able to follow up with their commitment. Please do get in touch with us in any instance that this can happen, and we can talk you through what to do next. But again, most importantly, stage 2 pledge collection is what you should focus on right now, but this is just important information for you to know. And all of this is in the resources section of the charity portal as well, and it details what you need at each stage if you do need some additional information. But it's quite a lot of information dump, but I think I'll pass straight on to Zariel now.
Thank you, Beth. That's really great. And yeah, just as Beth said, just focus on the pledge collection for now. So if I go on to the next slide, just some data from last year's campaign. So the average, what we mean by average, the mean pledge amount was for an individual pledge was around 1,566. So that obviously, that's between pledges pledging £100, and then obviously we had some pledges pledging like £25,000. So that's why the mean was around that amount. So we in the pledge form, so that pledges need to complete by 1st of September. We asked them how they are, what's their relationship with the charity, and so from that data we can see that 38% of pledges last year were from people identifying themselves as supporters, while 15% of pledges were from charity trustees, and 16% were from organizations such as companies or trusts and foundations. 84% of charities that secured that minimum £1,000 worth of pledges last year received champion funding. So those are roughly what we'd say the odds of securing pledges and receiving champion funding. Champion funding is awarded at the discretion of champions, so we can't guarantee each charity will receive champion funding. And across the whole campaign, there were around 5,000 pledges. So yeah, we had 5,000 pledge proofs to check last year. So please do bear with us in January and February, because we do have a lot of due diligence to get through, but we aim to pay out champion funds by end of February, early March, just because it does take us some time to check all of those pledge proofs. So how to secure your pledges by that 1st of September deadline. First of all, you need to submit your stage 1 application. Once you have done that, you will automatically be moved into the collect pledges stage. So log into your Big Give account, click on Big Give campaigns, and then click on the collect pledges button. You will see there is a unique link for your pledge form in your campaign dashboard. You need to share that with your pledges, and they need to complete that form. It's a very short form that shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 minutes to complete, and they need to complete it by that Friday, 1st of September deadline. Yeah, and as Beth mentioned, there are more resources, sort of support and resources in your campaign dashboard. But if you do have any sort of more detailed questions, please do reach out to us via email, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. With that in mind, I think we can hear from our charity panel now. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Sophie from Children on the Edge. So they are Christmas Challenge Award winner last year. So I will hand over to Sophie.
Okay, I'll just share my screen.
Brilliant, we can see that. Thanks, Sophie.
You can see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, afternoon, everyone. Sorry, shall I start?
Yes.
Hi, afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Sophie from Children on the Edge. Just quickly for background, Children on the Edge, we're a Sussex-based international charity, and we provide education for vulnerable children overseas. Slide coming through. It's very slow on my machine. Can you
Uh,
see? Sorry.
sorry, we can't see it, but Sophie, I can share the slides that you sent over if you bear with me. So if you stop sharing, I can share your slides.
Okay. Let me just, okay.
Yeah, just bear with me 2 ticks. Sorry about this. Okay, we're almost there. So yeah, just Sophie, just let me know when you want to move on to the next slide and I'll move it along.
Yeah, the second slide, please. Thank you. So Children on the Edge, we've been taking part now in Big Give's Christmas Challenge since 2019, and it's been really positive for us all as a charity. Each year we feel we do it a little bit better and learn something, and each year we've managed to grow our campaign. And as you can see in the slide, last year we raised almost £58,000 for a project to provide education for Rohingya children in Bangladesh. And we were also really thrilled to receive the Big Gives Award for Best International Charity. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So I'll tell you a little bit about our experience with pledges. I think what we've found is that inviting people to be pledges has been an absolutely brilliant way to bring those lapsed donors back on board, people that haven't given for maybe 4 or 5 years, to build a really close relationship with them, and then to gain an annual commitment from them that can be increased each year. So, next slide, please. Okay, so I'll tell you about our journey. In our first year of taking part, 2019, we didn't actually go to a lapsed donor. We asked one of our very committed foundation donors to pledge using their annual donation. So there was no actual financial gain to us doing that, but it did allow us to take part in the Big Give and get other new donors on board. Next slide, please. And then in the November of our very first year, we circulated this short film from our COO, Ben, to all our mailing lists, 8,000 people, explaining that we were in the Big Give, what it meant and what the match funding meant. And in response to sending that out, a US foundation emailed us to offer us $10,000, which was lovely. And it was really interesting. This foundation had been receiving our newsletters for 15 years, and we'd asked multiple times, only given twice before in response to crisis appeals. So we did actually find out from them later that it was the time limited appeal nature, but also the double funding that they were interested in. So we contacted them, we explained a little bit about the project, and unfortunately they didn't have a card, so they couldn't give during the Big Give week. So they decided to give to us anyway, but we thought they'd make an excellent future pledger. So now we'd had a chance to start a conversation with them, we kept that going. Of course, we thanked them. We sent them an update on how the Big Give appeal went in 2019, breaking down how much we raised from who. Can I have the next slide, please? Thanks, Sahil. And just kept on sending them little informal updates about the project they'd funded to let them know how everything's going. And then we went back to them in the spring of 2020 and asked them to be a pledger. And because of the time difference with the States, I had to do this all by email. So it was a little bit tricky because I think the pledging concept is a little bit hard to get sometimes. So there's a little bit of to and fro. So I think if you can get on the phone or do it face to face, it's much better. Could I have the next slide, please? So eventually we sent them the Big Give film with the visual representation of the breakdown between the pledge and the champion. And that really resonated with them and they understood it and they were very happy to be our pledger. And they've pledged ever since. So let's just think what happened then. They weren't particularly interested in receiving our comms in the build-up and during Big Give week, but if I can have the next slide, please. One thing they did really love was we sent them, after the campaign was over, we sent them this little summary of the breakdown of all the different sources of money, and we credited them, Pacific Star Charitable Trust, and thanked them there. And we also thanked them in our annual review, and along with the champion and Big Give themselves. And we continue to send them little mini project updates. And I'd say they're very warm to us now. You know, 4 years in, all I need to do is just ping them a really quick email. Hi, it's that time of year again. Will you pledge? Can you give this? And they've they come straight back to us. So it's, you know, from being cold, they're really, really on board with us now. Next slide, please. And so this year, with the new option for donors to give via Baxter and Big Give Week, we know that a lot of our supporters will be able to give this year for the first time online. So we are really, really keen to raise our entire target. And to do this, we've needed to secure a second pledger. And so this guy, he's a businessman. He was also a lapsed donor. He hadn't given to us for over 4 years, but he's an entrepreneur. So we thought he'd really like the leveraging aspect of being a pledger, the sort of effectively multiplying by 4 what he gave. So our CEO met him for coffee, explained it, he loved it. He was really encouraged to hear about other pledger. And what he told us is he really likes being what he calls a cornerstone funder and encouraging others to follow suit. So now between them, we've got £25,000 of pledges. So we're hoping to secure a champion to match this and go for the, excuse me, the top £100,000 target this year if we're successful. And next slide, please. So in summary, our tips are, I think it's a really attractive proposition, pledging, and it's a really brilliant way to re-engage donors who've dropped off, bring them back into the fold. Just think, when you're thinking about who to contact, I mean, of course, think about who's going to like the project, also who might like the leveraging aspect, so perhaps entrepreneurial types, and also think about who can't give online during Big Give Week, who might not be available or can only give by CAF or cheque. So you're not using up those donors that could do that. Online giving. Promote being a pledger as being a cornerstone donor and highlight the leveraging aspect. And I really recommend using the Big Give video, especially that quarter 4-4 breakdown of champion, pledger and the online donations, because that really resonates. Also, start talking to potential pledgers early. Although you've got until 1st of September to secure pledgers, what we found, particularly from our second year of applying, it's really good to have a verbal agreement in place even before submitting your application, as that pledge amount dictates your overall campaign target, and that takes a lot of the stress away if you've got that in the bag already. And good stewardship's really key. Like, look for any opportunity you can to acknowledge them if that's what they like. Let them know how the Big Give campaign went, any little chats you can have with them about the project, and then hopefully they'll become a regular pledger. And that's it. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share our experiences. I think everybody understands that giving online and doubling is really brilliant, but the pledge was a real surprise for us, like how successful that's been in bringing people back to us that had kind of maybe forgotten about us a little bit. So thank you. That was great.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Sophie, for sharing your experiences. I mean, that's a lot of really helpful tips, especially about how you never know where a pledger can come from, and then just having them, then once they can sort of see the impact of the match funding, maybe then they'll sort of become a regular pledger, and it becomes a bit easier in the following years. So really thank you for that presentation and sharing your tips and advice, because I know that was really useful. I want to now introduce Maureen from Young Herds Homeless, who is going to talk, another Christmas Challenge Award winner from last year, who's going to share their experiences about securing pledges last year.
Thanks, Sahil. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, my name's Maureen, and I'm the Corporate Partnerships Officer at Hearts Young Homeless. Hearts is short for Hertfordshire, because that's the area in which our charity works. So we, this is going to be our 4th year of taking part in the Big Give, and it's a big piece of our budget in the year, and it's a great project to get involved in, and we won Best UK Charity in the awards in December, so we were absolutely thrilled by that, and yeah, really happy to be taking part again. So apologies, no slides today, but my appearance today was a little bit short notice, so we had a massive event last week, so yeah, so you're just going to get my voice today. So we start our project very early on. So one of the things I would agree with Sophie. So start early, plan early, right at the beginning of the year, or maybe just after the Big Give from last year. So follow up from that, and that might lead into some things for the year ahead. So for me, I start that process when I'm doing sort of my budgeting for the next year. So putting together my budget and then assessing what we want to achieve from the Big Give. So last year our target was 24,000. And this year, actually, we've only just gone up incrementally to 25 because it's our 20th anniversary. So we thought it was a good message. So, and it links quite nicely with that. So there's lots of things we can do around that in terms of marketing and comms. Yeah, so we start early. So back in sort of January, February, when we're doing all our budgeting process, and then sort of putting together that target. And I guess as part of that process, we then also look at, or I then also look at who we're going to approach from a corporate perspective. So which corporate partners do we have that we think that would be interested in taking part in the Big Give, and look at both sort of lapsed corporate partners as well as sort of active ones, currently active ones. So for last year, one of our corporate pledgers had actually donated the previous year, and they had a link to our chairman Peter. So that was how that link was made. And then following that year, when they pledged something like £500. We invited them in to see us because they were interested in finding out a bit more. So we invited them. We had a meeting with them. We told them about our plans for the year ahead. And then they agreed to be our pledger for last year. So they went from £500 to £2,000, which was fantastic. So that was one pledge secured. And then for the other two, we went to an existing partner, an active partner who do lots of different things with us throughout the year. But it was their first time of actually taking part in the Big Give in terms of pledging. Again, they'd always donated, but so we moved them into being a pledger. And then the third one we tried was another partner, and they had supported us in 3 previous years, but they came back with a no. So not everyone that you approach are going to say yes. So it's always good to have a plan B as well. So it's plan for that. So we then had another corporate partner that we went to who is actually run by one of our trustees, and they agreed to sort of step in and help us get to our pledge. So I guess total really. So we managed to get our £6,000 pledged. So that was great. So we were very happy with that. But so what I would definitely say is look at lapsed donors as well as existing active ones. And for this year, we've done exactly the same. So we're going back to 2 of the donors who pledged for last year, and we're going to 2 newer ones. So one who hasn't supported us probably for about 3 years now, who actually we're meeting up with next week for the first time in a couple of years, and another corporate partner who actually have done lots of other things with us. So maybe like challenges, so cycling challenges, sort of running, that kind of thing, but they've never done the Big Give. So this will be very new to them. And for this year, although our total's not gone up in terms of what we're aiming to achieve by very much, we've actually, because of the cost of living and kind of all the other things that are going on for businesses out there, we know that life is tough. And we found that in lots of other things, like trying to get sponsorship for things this year, and just our income in general has been much tougher to achieve. So we decided to split the pot of the pledgers down a bit more. So rather than asking for 2,000, we're now looking for 1,500. So we're trying to make it a bit more, just a bit easier for those businesses to take part, really. So anything we can do. And the other thing that we've also done this year is we plan to approach 4 corporate partners, but we've also got 3 in reserve. So in case any of those, for whatever reason, can't take part due to financial issues, or they just can't afford that amount of money, then we've got a kind of a backup plan as well. So that's our plan for this year. And then, so, the other thing that we do is we really do sort of, I guess, explain to our pledgers, just how important their participation is and their support is, because obviously we can't take part without them. So we push that point very, very, very clearly. And then we also explain, you know, what our target is, and then if we get a champion, and then obviously all the kind of doubling of donations, etc. So we push all of those things and explain all of those things. And then as soon as we've secured that pledge, we'll then do some social media on that, and obviously put all the details on things like our email banners and all of those kind of things that we can do as quickly as we can, so that they get as much great PR out of this as we can give them, really. So we really push that, which obviously that, you know, they're really keen for. And we typically have approached corporates to be our pledgers in the main, and we kind of keep all our other sort of, I guess, all our other contacts, so community, individual givers, major donors, to give in the actual giving week, so to be our donors. So that's how we've normally split it. But we might not always do that, but that's certainly how we've done it sort of up to now. So yeah. So I think that's it. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I needed to say. No, I think that was me. So yeah.
Thank you, Maureen. That was really brilliant. I thank you again for joining us. I know you're busy at the moment. There was sort of short notice that we asked you to join us, but thank you so much for joining us. And again, I think there's some common themes between what you and Sophie said about approaching those lapsed donors, and obviously that stewardship is so vital as well for pledges. But yeah, thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences. I'd like to now introduce Hannah from the Hygiene Bank, who will share another Christmas Challenge Award winner from last year, who's going to share what they did to secure their pledges.
Thank you, Sahil. Sahil, do you mind sharing our slides, please?
Sure, just bear with me 1 second.
Thank you.
There. Share the screen. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's great. Well, hi everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. So yeah, I'm Hannah. I'm the Senior Fundraising Officer at the Hygiene Bank. We're a kind of nationwide organisation. So fundamentally, we believe that everyone deserves to feel clean, but unfortunately, there are millions of people living in poverty in the UK today that can't afford the kind of basic hygiene products that most of us take for granted. So we've got over 215 projects across the UK that give people living in poverty access to products and kind of raise awareness of hygiene poverty as a problem that we can solve together. So I'll tell you a bit about our first Christmas challenge. Next slide, please. Or you can go on to the next one, Sahil. Thank you. So we are a relatively young charity, so it's our 5th year of operations this year. So last year we were only 4. We had distributed, I think, over 1.2 million kilos of hygiene products. However, despite this, because of the COVID pandemic and the kind of impending cost of living crisis, need for our services was just through the roof. It was greater than ever before. So in order to kind of scale to meet that need, we needed to scale our organisation. So the Big Give kind of presented a really unique opportunity for us to raise unrestricted funds, which we have always found much harder to secure than programme or kind of project funding. So this was a really unique opportunity that we kind of just had to go for, despite it being something that we had never done before, and quite a daunting prospect to take part in a campaign like that. We hadn't done anything even remotely similar before. I think one of the reasons as to why we went for it as well was because last year we welcomed a new CEO who had experience doing the campaign a couple of times before. So she sung its praises and kind of showed it as a really unique opportunity to increase our donor base, raise awareness, and also raise unrestricted funds. Next slide, please. Oh, was there one before that? No, that wasn't. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, we'll go to the next one. Yeah, great. That's perfect. Thank you, Sahil. So just before we move on to pledges, I just wanted to talk about the kind of application stage. So as a newcomer to the Big Give, we were really unsure of what targets to set. Yeah, we kind of struggled to identify what cost was realistic, what amounts were realistic. So to help this decision, we looked back on previous successful campaigns from similar organizations, similar in kind of values alignment and size. And we also undertook a deeper analysis of our existing donors. So as I mentioned, we were a young charity and we had a fairly small pool of donors. So the Big Give kind of gave us a really, gave us that time to segment our existing donor base for the very first time. So based on kind of previous donor data, we segmented our donors by audience, and then we kind of attributed a predicted amount that we thought we could get from each of those audience types. This was really, really useful. So I would really recommend this if that kind of segmentation is something that you don't have already. And then that helped us reach our initial target of £20,000, which was made up of a £5,000 pledge target. Yeah, this was really, really useful and provided us with invaluable information that we were constantly drawing upon during the campaign. Oh, you can go back, Sahil, thank you. So yeah, on to collecting our pledges. So this initial donor segmentation identified some really core supporters that we could approach for pledges. This list of potential pledges included our most significant donors, trusts and foundations that have supported us before, brands and corporate supporters, and a couple of high net worth individuals in our network as well. So to reach out to them, we drafted bespoke emails to each of the potential pledges, inviting them to really lay the foundations of the campaign. We saw that as a really kind of attractive offer, to kind of be that core part of something wonderful. In that email, we also included lots of information on the campaign. It can be quite tricky to get your head around. So again, I think, as mentioned before, really using the Big Give resources to give information, use the videos and stuff. We also included information about the match funding process and a breakdown of how their pledge would help us secure our target, not only contributing to our target, but also encouraging others to donate. We also explicitly asked each recipient for a certain donation amount as a guide, tailored to what each had previously given. And we found this really, really useful. To our surprise, all donation amounts that we suggested were either met or exceeded. And we were also really fortunate in that one large corporate supporter also offered our full pledge target. So this one and then two other promised pledges enabled us to increase our initial pledge target to £6,250, which in turn increased our campaign target to £25,000. So yeah, that was really exciting. Next slide, please, Sahil. So yeah, we checked with our pledges that they were happy to be thanked publicly on social media platforms and our website. As part of our stewardship journey, we made sure that all pledges were regularly thanked and updated with the progress of our campaign. We also offered to acknowledge their contribution in our next annual impact report. Yeah, we're really confident that this early support encouraged other supporters to donate in the online donation phase, especially kind of larger brands and corporates that saw one had already kind of laid the foundations of the campaign, if you will. And yeah, I think I probably sent out a lot of pledge emails initially and only heard back from those 3 that actually donated in the end. So even though we didn't hear back from all of those potential pledges, we reached out to, initially we sent all of them a follow-up email just to let them know about the online donation phase when it launched in November, just kind of encouraging them to donate and asking them to share the campaign. next one. Oh, yeah, these are just some kind of stats from our campaign. Next slide. Oh yeah, perfect. Thank you, Sahil. So yeah, as I mentioned, so we set out with the goal initially of raising 12,500 in online donations in 1 week, which we were really quite nervous about. However, we hit that target on the third day. And we weren't even halfway through the week at this point. We're only on day 3, and we wanted to kind of maximize our fundraising efforts by making the most of the amazing matching element that the Big Give offer. So fortunately, we have a very generous trustee who offered to pledge an additional £3,000 to our match pot, which meant that we could then increase our overall target to £31,000, which then gave us the goal of raising an additional £3,000 in that kind of final bit of the week, which we did eventually hit, which was really exciting. So yeah, I guess my point here is just to, even if you don't hear back from all of your pledges, or you get a lot of pledge requests, for example, you may not want to use them all during the pledge stage initially. You could save some to kind of boost your online donations if and when they kind of plateau during the week, or they could jump in as another pledger when you kind of hit your target. Yeah, that's everything. Yeah, I think a kind of quite in-depth case study of our campaign is available on the Big Give website, and yeah, if anyone wants to ask me any questions about it, they can. So yeah, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. That was really, really great. And again, there are some similar themes again, like between all of what you've said about like offering that opposition of seed funding for your campaign and putting it that way. And I like the idea of like saving some of your some of your potential pledges instead for the donation phase, and you sort of encourage maybe using them as like a donor to boost your campaign. So really great tips there. So thank you all three for sharing your knowledge with us. I think we have some questions going. Beth, are there any questions that you want to pick out first?
Yeah, I'll just start from the top. So we have a question from Rowan. Are we able to see collected pledge forms so that we can keep track of where we are in our target? Do you want to answer that, Sahil?
Yep. So in your campaign dashboard, you'll be able to see there'll be, if you scroll down when you're on the pledge collection phase, you'll see a little table showing who's pledged to your campaign and how much you've secured so far in total in pledges. So that is, all of that information is available in your campaign dashboard, and it's updated as soon as pledges are submitted by pledgers.
Great, thank you. And we have a question here about how people actually make their pledge. So just a reminder that pledges are paid directly to your charity after the Christmas Challenge campaign has ended. So that's any time between the 5th of December and then the 12th of January. And pledges can pay you by any method convenient to them. So it could be backs, it'd be cash, CAF, check, etc. As long as you can record how they've paid you, make sure you've noted that down somewhere and you've got the evidence, that's absolutely fine. And another question from Seema was, do we have a template we can send out to potential pledges? In short, Big Give do have a template that you can use. It's in the resources section of the portal. So if you log into your account, go to support, and under Christmas Challenge, there's a pledge resource with a template that you can edit to send out. But I'd be interested to know if any of the 3 charities use that, or if you have your own templates for pledge reach outs.
So we did our own, and actually all of our pledges were done in a meeting, so face to face. So we would have a meeting with our corporate partners. We would be sort of talking about the year ahead, and the Big Give would form part of that conversation. So that might be the first ask you make in the meeting, but it's part of a wider thing. So you're having a general discussion, and it's part of that sort of deck of slides that you're sharing, or some information that you're sharing. So yeah, it's really personal that way.
Yeah, we did the same. I mean, we did use some of the Big Give resources just to kind of clarify exactly what the match funding campaign is, how it works, because we found that a bit tricky to get our heads around initially. So yeah, kind of using those resources. The video, again, really kind of great visual resource. We put a link to that in the email. Yeah, but yeah, it kind of made it as personal and as bespoke as possible, really.
Yeah, same for us. We didn't have a form or anything like that. They were all personal approaches and personal, one-to-one conversations, either through email or chats on the phone.
Great, that's really useful. And just to note, the videos mentioned can be found on our Big Give YouTube channel. So there's a pledge video resource there that you can send out to your pledges as well if you do want to use that.
There's a question from Sam Hall about, did the charities presenting, did you use any specific money handles either to your pledges or during the campaign? So like £50 does X or £100 does Y. So when you're approaching your pledges, did you use money handles or did you sort of frame it a different way? Sophie, sorry, Maureen.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, no, Sophie. I don't mind. Yeah. So we didn't do that with pledgers per se. But as I say, we kind of had that conversation about the Big Give in the kind of wider context of talking to them about, our plans for the year and things like that. So we would have talked about what donations fund in general. We did the more if you donate £10 doubles to 20, and this is what it can buy during the actual giving week, so that the kind of wider audience got that message, but not specifically to the pledgers for us. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't used specific money handles like Maureen said during the pledging stage, but we actually have shared the full budget with our pledges. So the back end budget for the whole project, and then those money handles go in the actual application on the website. But yeah, so we're very happy to share all that with the pledges, because we're actually, in effect, we're asking them to fund a whole quarter of the whole project. So they want to see the full picture.
Yeah, and we didn't use kind of money handles either. I guess we wanted to raise money for unrestricted unrestricted funding, most of which went towards our kind of core costs. We were really transparent about what that kind of looks like, though. We put that in our aims in the Big Give kind of profile that we had, just so everyone's aware of what that money is going towards. And then again, during kind of the campaign week, as part of our kind of comms and marketing, we would also say stuff like, X amount donation could buy X, just being careful to use conditional statements there. Yeah.
Great. Maybe Beth, you can answer this. Can a pledger also donate during the Christmas challenge week as an online donor?
So no. So if someone is acting as a pledger for you, they can't also donate to your campaign, as they'd kind of effectively just be donating and matching it themselves. So they can't, I'm afraid.
I had a question from Faye about, are you able to collect pledges during the week to increase your match funding pot while people are donating? We do consider charities adding in more pledges during the campaign if they've already hit your target. So if normally we consider this if you submit a request by Friday of the campaign. We don't openly advertise this, although I think we're sort of doing that now, but because it is sort of a bit of a process for us to manage. But if you do hit your target before the Friday of the campaign and want to secure more pledges, you can send us an email for us to sort of reopen the pledges for you. But yeah, as I say, only if you hit your target.
There's a couple more just about the process. So what would you say a realistic pledge amount for first timers is for Big Give?
Good question. I think actually, well, what we always advise is charities to go conservative on their target. Um, you have to weigh up, first of all, how, like, do your network mapping of your donor base, and then obviously of your digital fundraising experience, and then consider what your target should be and go on a conservative side to that. So it's very hard for us to answer that question exactly, but those are the things we ask you to consider: network map, um, your digital fundraising capacity and history are probably the key things to consider when forming your target. But I think it'd be good to understand from the charities, if when you're approaching the Christmas challenge from the first time. I know, Hannah, you talked about it, about you did that sort of data analysis of your donors.
Yeah. I just want to emphasize how kind of invaluable that exercise was. Just as a first timer at the Big Give, we just had no idea as to what target was feasible for us to set. So then doing that exercise, kind of putting down a predicted amount against each donor based on what they previously donated, was really, really useful. And that in turn gave us the kind of guide amount that we wanted to ask each pledger for. And again, just kind of like Sahil said, I think keeping to the more conservative end of targets would be useful, just because obviously it's an all or nothing campaign, but it would also be great to hit the target. And then, yeah, we kind of, as I mentioned, we hit our target, which then enabled us to add more money to the pledge pot. So even though you set your targets, it's not technically something that can't be changed during the campaign week. So yeah.
Maureen and Sophie, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that about. I don't know. I don't know if you two were around when you first, when your charities first did the Christmas challenge, but if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think definitely go conservative at first, but I think we actually under-egged it first time around, because we hit our target, I think, about on the second day or halfway through the second day. So, but we did very careful analysis, not just of who would pledge, but who we thought would give online as well. And then lots of people, you know, there's lots of sort of people out there who will never, this is a brilliant way to meet people that have never heard of you. And I think I've actually done it in different charities, and in other charities where we've done no marketing. I think there's people that come and just like to be sort of last minute heroes and help charities meet their target that you don't even know about. So I think if it's hard. You want to strike a balance. You want to maximize all your champion funding, but just to be aware that there are people out there that will never have heard of you and will just go on the Big Give portal, look who's a little way off their target, read about you, and if they like you, you can get quite a bit of money through that. I don't know, that's not very helpful about pledge amounts.
That's really great to hear, though.
Completely agree. Just kind of keep it low to start. Well, that's what we did in our first year. But we kind of we under-egged it a little bit as well, because I think we'd made it after a day and a half. So yeah, it went a bit mad. So then we had to very quickly change all our comms for the rest of the week. So it was all about doubling, and we had to go, oh, we haven't prepared anything else. So that we were kind of running at that from day two. So that was lesson learned. So then we increased our target by quite a bit more for the second year, and then we were obviously ready to hit that. Or if we hit that on day one, day two, day three, we were ready with different comms then to then for the rest of the week. So yeah.
I think, and just to add, I think one thing that we've done in years after that we didn't miss out on all those stranger donations is that we've always had a really good donor waiting in the wings as a safety net. Keep them to the end of the week and just see how you're doing, rather than getting them all to go in early. Keep a couple just to help you meet your target if you don't. And if they're going to give to you anyway, they don't need to give through the Big Give if other people are going to. But yeah.
That's great. Both really useful advice. Thank you. 2 questions for you, Sahil. What is the max match funding amount Big Give make possible, and what happens if you don't use your full match funding pot?
So the maximum amount of champion funding a charity can apply for is £25,000. So that will be £100,000 overall target, £25,000 of pledges, £25,000 of champion funds, and then £50,000 of online donations. So that's the maximum you can do. And yeah, if you don't use all of your match funding, or if you don't hit your donation target, it depends on how much, if you've used up all your pledges. So as we mentioned at the start of the webinar, pledges are first used to match donations, and then once they've been used up, then any champion funds you've been awarded are then used to match donations. So it just depends if you've used up all of the pledges to match the donations and then access the champion funding. But whatever you do raise will be matched. It's just, yeah, if you access the champion funding.
Great. And we have a question from Ruth about pledge proofs and what data we need relating to these donations. So we will send a lot more detailed information about what we require a lot later down the line, but in general, it's like the pledger name, the date, time, the date donation has been received by you, and the amount of that donation. So again, don't need to worry about that too much now. We will send out further information for you regarding that. But we also had a couple of questions here about unrestricted funds and applying for that versus a project. We did talk about that quite a bit in our previous webinar, but I wonder, Sarah, if you have anything kind of you wanted to add here.
Yeah, so we do allow charities to raise funds for unrestricted purposes. What we do encourage charities to do, if you're doing that, is when you're filling out your application, is not to talk about, oh, we need £5,000 of this, or just for core costs, or make it very general. Talk about your impact in your application and the work of your charity. So if you're going for unrestricted funds, by all means you can do that, but just make sure you're framing your application as the impact of your charity and the work that you do, so that is both attractive to champions when they're reading your application, but also attractive to donors when they're visiting your campaign page.
Exactly, and we don't have any kind of data on what's more appealing to champions. Again, is very open about what you can apply for, but as long as you kind of take Sahil's advice, you can definitely get champion funding if you do want to raise funds for unrestricted purposes. So don't let that kind of put you off. Just a question here: if a trust promised to be a pledger, but they have very fixed processes and procedures for grant payments, and they want to make a payment before the campaign week, is that possible?
So that isn't possible. We do need pledges to be paid after the campaign ends, because it is sort of, we want to sort of keep the sanctity of what match funding is. So it's unlocking funding as you receive donations. So yeah, that wouldn't be eligible to be a pledge, unfortunately.
Great. And I can see there's another question about trusts and whether they're happy to donate through the Big Give portal, or if you find the majority of online donors are individuals. I don't know if any of the charities here have experience with trusts donating to their campaign.
Oh, Sophie, I think you're
Sorry, I think that's going to be very different this year for the first time, having the backs, because most of the trusts we speak to are very, very interested in that matching, but they don't have a card, so they couldn't do it online before. But we did actually do it by backs last year. I think we were part of a trial group testing that, and that worked really well with a foundation donor. So that's going to open up a whole new, we have hundreds more donors. Yeah, so yeah, I think everybody likes that doubling. Proposition.
Amazing. Yeah, as Sophie mentioned, we tried a backs donation system last year, so that will be available again this year on a wider basis to all charities and donors. The qualifier for that is that minimum donations to use that facility are £500. So yeah, but we will send further information down the line about how donors can use that if they want to donate £500 or more via backs.
Great. And it looks like the very last question here is if can donors and pledges gift aid, or just donors in the week? And the answer to both is yes. For donors, during the donation journey on Big Give, they can have the option to gift aid a donation, and you'll have all of that information in your donation report after available in the portal. For pledges, as these are paid to you directly, you'd need to collect those gift aid statements from them. But yes, you can.
So yeah, actually, we asked the gift aid. I think we asked the gift aid question in the pledge form.
Okay.
Yeah, So I think we changed that, but yeah, gift aid is shown in the pledge form, but as Beth said, because they're paid to you directly, you have to claim that gift aid yourself. We won't be able to claim it for you. I think that is it, Beth. Is there any more questions, or we've done them all?
I think we've done them all and right on time as well.
Amazing. Yeah, so hit 1 o'clock on the dot. Firstly, a big thank you to Maureen, Hannah, and Sophie for joining us today and sharing their experiences. It's been they're really great presentations and great insights. So hopefully all of the attendees have picked up something. I know we also learned some things from these webinars as well, so it's useful for us as well. So thanks, Maureen, Hannah, and Sophie. I want to thank all the attendees for joining us today and asking us many questions. And hopefully, as I say, hopefully you've picked up some great tips to securing your pledges this year. And we hope this encourages you to apply. So we look forward to receiving your applications. Yeah, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the week. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Good luck, everyone.
you. Yeah,
Bye.
good luck. Bye.
Good luck.
Good luck.